kilobyte.
Here, live, but not really, from the studios of 5 Kilobyte Productions, I present to you a very special piece of sound recording equipment that I hope will keep you interested in this particular video presentation. The particular device you're about to witness is a device that originates from Soviet Russia. That's right, the USSR. This particular device you're about to see is from the year 1973 and possibly was used by the Secret Service, even the KGB. I hope you enjoy the following presentation. Not presented by THX. Sound reproduction is crucial here at the studios of 5 Kilobyte Productions. So here you can see a very special loudspeaker which will be used to monitor the sound coming out of the device you are about to see. You can see this loudspeaker has a nice fancy vent, tan in color, and comes in a handsome cardboard box. Now you might be wondering, why is this so special? Well, it's called a Lazy Man speaker setup. I got a couple of alligator clip leads coming out the other end. Here's the deal. As you'll see soon, the outputs of the recorder you're about to see, the speaker output is 500 ohm impedance, which is an odd impedance. But I happen to have a 500 ohm speaker. It was a small, I think 3.5 inch size speaker, only rated at 0.3 watts, mounted on a plastic piece that would have went to an old pair of headphones. But just the speaker was given to me years ago by someone. So I stuffed it in a cardboard box with some packing material to hold the speaker in place, because I was too lazy to glue it, and it will suffice as a container, because the device you're about to see does not have a built-in speaker. And yes, this is a messy work area. I am fully aware of that. Is that unprofessional? You ask me, or you tell me, or whatever. No, look at, I didn't leave the soldering iron plugged in. If I did, the world would have probably ended. Anyway, let's get to the action. So here you can see the case, or the top of the case more precisely, the lid. Move like this. You'll see there's a little hinged door. If I open that up, you will see a couple of items. One is a voltage selector / fuse. Take it out, it reveals a small fuse. If you see inside, which you can't see, so take my word for it, there are 3 different areas you can choose, corresponding to the operating voltages of this machine. 127 volts, 110 volts, and 220 volts AC. I have mine set to 127. The electricity coming out of the wall outlets here are right at 120 volts. I measured it. And then there is variable resistor, resistor 4, just set with glue. I believe, although I have not tried adjusting it, I believe that resistor 4 adjusts the regulated DC output voltage of the power supply. Here is the rear of the unit. Here on the rear of the unit is a Russian labeled connector. I believe that this this outlet or this connector would hook up to another machine used as a backup. From what I read somewhere, there's a network settings, so if you're recording using one machine and the wire breaks or something, it will trigger the other machine to start so that you will not leave out any material. Below it needs little explanation. it is a ground connection. Electrically connected to the chassis. Although the machine originally came with the original European Russian plug, the electrical connections from the wires to the connections inside had become disconnected, and there's no way I can take apart this Russian plug. So even though I had one of these adapters, I had to splice an American cord onto the power cord of this machine. Okay, time to reveal the machine. So let's remove the top cover of this secret machine and reveal the beautiful device itself. The entire case of this machine is solid metal. The machine is built very, very tough. And of course, it is not a tape recorder. It is a wire recorder. Look up closely at the spools. You'll notice that the machine is 3-head. The wire goes from right to left during normal playback. There is erase head, record head, and play head. You rarely see a wire recorder that employs 3 heads. You may be able to also barely see the glint of the thin steel wire. The wire in this wire recorder is thinner, I believe, than the wire on your common Webster Chicago wire recorders that are quite easy to come by. But this machine is from 1973, and from what I heard, designed in 1961. Tape was already going on strong by that time, right? One might ask. Well, this machine had an advantage over tape in the using of wire, and that was the fact that wire on this machine, with the speed it runs at, it will record for a full 5.5 hours on one spool. Obviously you only have one side, because if you turn it over, you're just going to hear it in reverse, because you can only have one track on wire, the wire itself. But still, this machine can record for 5.5 hours on one spool. That is a long record time. Let's look up the speaker. Here you'll see a couple of outputs. This one being a 100 ohm impedance speaker out. Here's a 3.2 kilo ohm output. Do not assume that this is also ground, because it's not. This is ground, but this is not. If it was, it would be labeled. Thankfully, these Russian plugs are just the right size to insert banana plugs into. With those banana plugs, I could clip on the speaker. Also provided is a headphone output, and you might think, oh, it's your standard 1/4-inch jack. Well, let's get a 1/4-inch jack. Go. So we try to plug it in. This jack is slightly smaller than your standard 1/4-inch jack, but larger than your 1/8-inch jack, or 3.5 millimeter. Over on the right side of the machine is a recording section, having 4 inputs. The jack input here being for a microphone. Again, it's that same odd-sized jack that I don't have, so I have to use one of the other inputs. Each of them has a different impedance and sensitivity. The most sensitive of the inputs that I can use with banana plugs is the one on the bottom, which is also referenced to ground. So that's the input we'll be using. It can be used with the microphone, although the lower impedance the better, because for some reason the higher impedance I put on there, the more hum I get, and the lower impedance I put on there, the less hum I get. I believe input number 2 wants a higher impedance and is more of a line level input. Over here is an input selector. Let's turn the device on. Yes, I know there is a considerable hum from the amplifier. I'm fully aware of that. Anyway, now let's go a little bit over more of what the controls are on this machine, since obviously they're in Russian, and if you don't know Russian, you won't know what they mean or what they say. I don't know Russian either, but I figure out what the controls are. So you'll see on the control panel here you have this. Now I've seen pictures of this model online, and it was just a button, and this one may have been later on had the button replaced with the toggle switch, but this is a forward reverse switch. If it's up, it will play the wire in the forward direction. If it's down, it will play the wire in reverse, but it will still go forward if you're in record mode. Otherwise you'll just erase. This is a start-stop. Obviously this is on off. And this is a neon indicator light that shows not exactly the recording level, but shows playback level if you're playing something loud enough. And I guess you could sort of have an idea of recording level too, but it adjusts brightness with playback level. And the weird thing is whenever you're recording, the only way to monitor what you're recording is to hear what's being played out of the wire. Because think of it this way, a 3-head tape recorder which only has its source or tape switch set to tape all the time. It's normal for this machine. This middle one is playback volume. This one here is bass. This one here is treble. There is no record level control, and it's not auto level control either. You can select the impedance of input, which will in a way affect the sensitivity of the input. And of course you can always adjust your strength of your input signal depending on what it is you're recording. But there is no actual recording level control on this machine. It's an odd design. I'm not sure exactly why they did it that way, but that's just how they did it. Here is the transport mechanism control knob. In position B, it's playback. Now I know this looks like the number 3, but it is a Russian letter, not the number 3, even though it looks like a 3. What looks like a 3 means record. What looks like 3A, I believe, is record with it in network mode, where it has to have another machine hooked up to it. And what I've noticed is sometimes when I have it in that setting, the motor will run, and other times when I have it in that setting, the motor won't run. So I just set it to the standard 3. Well, what looks like a 3. This position here is rewind, and this position here is fast forward. Although I don't have a direct translation of what this means, I'm sure that means something to the effect of warning, and that down there in quotes means stop. What they're telling you to do is, before you change your direction, before you change your mode of operation here, put it into stop first. I have already learned this stupid hard way. Me being Ricky, who does things like that, was an idiot, and instead of thinking about that, or really knowing what it said at the time, except for stop and something in red, which must have been something like warning, I went from play straight to rewind, and was greeted by the machine's immediate changing of direction without hesitation, and the snapping of the wire. And then I had to tie a square knot, which is that very thin wire. And I had to end up having to do that twice. Believe me, that was not fun. So I've already made some recordings on this earlier of various things. Random things, I guess you could say. I had this machine hooked up to a computer too, and I was messing around.
So think about
This is
that.
me when I was 10 or 11 years old.
This is not. That's constant. Chris is not making more sound. Chris not without any cooking.
After being put through noise reduction stuff on Audacity, the recording was originally done in 2001 or 2 on cassette.
That input was putting out notice. This is hourly driven, and they also have a slight complementary hum. And service comes out.
I had the camera output hooked up to the input here.
Oh, it works here. Hello? This may be good. Let's test this and see if this works good. Using the ground reference, but input into on the left side. Hello. Strong now. We have now input into by itself. This ground may be a little different, but it's hooked up to the camera out. Oh gosh, the camera's flashing the ubiquitous dead battery symbol. That's not something we want to see. Let's see how this comes out.
Let's make some direct, standard, dynamic microphone recordings. We'll be using the very commonly seen in almost all of my tape recorder presentations, Sony F96 dynamic microphone, low impedance. This is a lazy man's way of hooking it up. Alligator clips directly to the jack. That's because I'm lazy. I'm actually quite lazy. It's pretty sad how lazy I am, really. Now, let's put the machine into record mode. And of course, there is no record level adjustment. But when I'm using a low impedance dynamic mic with its input, it works best to speak right up to the machine, to the mic. I'm making a recording. You can hear it kind of echo and playback live because it's a 3-head machine that always monitors the wire, even whenever it's recording. With its kind of standard of quality, we'll hook the speaker back up, we'll rewind the recording, and we'll play. So now we go to rewind. It's very helpful to be able to hear the machine, the sound come through the head while it's rewinding or fast forwarding. Of course, because there's no tape counter for one thing. Now let's go to play.
That's not something we want to see. See how this comes out. I'm making a recording. You can hear it kind of echo and playback live because it's a 3-head machine that always monitors the wire, even whenever it's recording. With the volume all the way up, you can see the flicker of the neon light, but also you can hear feedback. So now, of course, with the volume all the way down, you no longer see the light flicker. So if you wanted to monitor the recording strength, you'd have to unhook the speaker and then just monitor the light by itself. It flickers almost immediately after you speak because of the speed that the wire goes and the short distance between the heads. But we can hook the speaker back up to show that the amplifier is still in operation. Anyway, this is a very interesting machine, the MH-61.
The direct connection consulting will be done later. My try with the telephone pickup coil resulted in horribly distorted sound, even though in the past it worked just fine. I don't know, Murphy's just trying to get me, I guess. Back with the mic.
Cosmonauts in the Russian space race. Anyway, one thing I forgot to mention is the 2 lights. You'll notice that there are 2 lights on the machine. One of them, the one on the left, the green light, is on, showing that it is turned on. The one on the right would light up red, and it comes on, I believe, whenever the wire breaks, or when something causes the machine not to want to run its motor. When I first got this machine, it was having an issue where the motor did not want to kick on right away, or kick on for long. It would come on for a second and then turn off, illuminating the red light. Also, when the wire broke, the red light illuminated. But ever since a few little doings on in the very beginning, the machine finally went to where it has been working extremely reliably and working every single time without fail. As you should expect a machine like this to be, with its kind of standard of quality and built for the types of applications it was intended for. That is, Secret Service, KGB, that kind of thing. You want something that's reliable, that's going to work every time. So anyway, we'll turn that back down, we'll hook the speaker back up, we'll rewind the recording, and we'll play.
The machine also can play reverse, of course.
Yes, bona. Nero here and now, Vero. But I keeps it. No, I got banners. Yeah, we know it. Man, you're right. Girl, when I sit, full bowlers, then it must know we. Yes, and I got EBC, Silver, Circus, sit up.
Fascinating indeed. The reversing function can be fun because one can play around trying to record and play things in reverse. I am telling you a message in reverse.
Sir, we're next to this time, we know us, man.
Sir, me limit shit miss many of me now. Sure, many little miss me now.
I'm him, sim, steps in the verse. I am sim, fish in the verse.
Let's try something simpler. Hello, reverse speech. Hello, reverse speech.
Sheeps, serve your wall.
Seeps, serve your Allah.
Allah, reverse speech.
Anyway, that's a good little showing of it with reversed speech. I've also recorded some music on this machine, and I'll show its recording quality. It was recorded a while back, and I'll have to do a lot of rewinding to get there. That was linear predictive coding on wire. What about Dave Jones from the EEV blog?
Double box. Hang on. Ta-da! Almost there. Let's have a look. Yes, EMC testing stuff they've done.
Now time to hear the music recording quality. Keep in mind that the frequency response of this machine is 300 Hz to 3 kHz. would be a good machine for backwards mask tests. Right when another recording began. I think out of all things, the most interesting thing you may hear out of this machine is Soviet recordings. Which some point in the future I will transfer them all to digital and I will put them on YouTube. And hopefully somebody out there will translate the Russian into English.
Запись в автоматическом режиме. Запись в автоматическом режиме при наличии металлического предмета у носителя. Наличие металлического предмета не должно влиять на качество записи и на уровень записи.
You can tell the old Russian recordings are from two-way radio. Gives me the impression this machine probably was not used by a civilian. They're probably government recordings, possibly KGB in nature. Whatever they are, they're very interesting to have.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
If I can find
Tester.
some decent quality Russian recordings on there, I may even at some point do some linear predictive coding speech synthesis of some samples. I hope you enjoyed this Russian machine. This isn't the end of the video, but just a short farewell because it's this particular session of recording this part of the video. I already recorded earlier parts showing the inside of the machine. It's very beautiful. Hello viewers, it's me again. Coming at you live like a stick of dynamite. Okay, so before I put this back together, I want to get some shots of the inside because it's a beautifully constructed device constructed by the Soviets. This is a Russian wire. Oh my gosh, freaking thing! This is a Russian wire recorder. Don't even think about it, stupid video signal. This is a Russian wire recorder, and I believe it's military grade. I believe it was used by the Secret Service, or well, the model would have been used by the Secret Service. I got this machine. It actually does work on original parts, but I didn't realize it at the time, and I did put another filter capacitor in there thinking one of the old ones may have been bad, but actually I don't think it's actually a problem. I powered it up on a variac slowly, and I heard a hum coming out of the amp, which made me think it was bad filtering, but it only turned out it was like that whenever the amplifier was receiving very low voltage. Once it came to operating voltage, it worked fine. So, but before I put it back together, I want to show the inside because the construction of this thing is breathtakingly beautiful. It's all modular, for one thing. I always first notice the hinges. Also, if you can't notice, the circuit boards are all coated in some kind of coating, I think to keep it from the effects of humidity and stuff like that over time. The quality of construction is just beautiful, and of course this is all Russian electronics right here. I believe this device is from 1973, judging by what I believe to be some date codes. Oh, there it is, plainly right there. That symbol I know is, when I see it after a number, I know it means a year. I don't know Russian, but I've seen enough Russian things that say the year, or Russian things online, or Russian things that say the year, to know that that little symbol after the number means it's a year. So 1973, I saw another date code on something that was like 73 and then what I believe to be a week or a month. So I believe this wire recorder is from 1973. This would be the newest wire recorder I've ever seen, aside from any possibly more newer flight black boxes that I would have seen online, such as one featured on The Secret Life of Machines, which managed to apparently record digital information about the flight on wire, which gives me the thought that it's a considerably newer wire recording machine. But this machine's from 1973. Here's the other module. 2 circuit boards, of course, just like the other, except they're larger. The transistors are either socketed or on stands. I haven't tried unplugging the transistors. But they just look just beautiful. Just the way it's put together is just... I love the style. Anyway, let me take the other module out again, because this is a recording module, or recording circuitry. This is a 3-head wire recorder, mind you. You don't see 3-head wire recorders every day. This is the playback module. And then this is the actual machine itself with the transport mechanism, which comes out like that. There's the other side of the mechanical section. These are AC motors, some solenoids, some AC capacitors. The construction of this thing is just beautiful, to say the least. Here's the power supply section here in the base. Toroidal power transformer. I can run on 110, 127, or 220 volts, so it's international voltage. Here's the new capacitor I stuck in there. The other one did read value whenever I put it on a cap meter, and I'm sure it's still good, because it turned out the filter capacitor, I don't think it was a problem after all, but I just decided just to leave the new capacitor in there. These are two 200 microfarad capacitors in series. I replaced it with one 470 microfarad, but these two I'm sure are still fine. If I wanted to, I could hook them back up, but I'll just leave it as I have it with the replacement right now. I wanted to capture this machine apart before I put it back together, or screwed it back together, that is. Because to take the two halves apart from the machine, the screws you have to use are down in here. So you have to take these two modules out first, and then there's the screws down in there that you can screw or unscrew to take the machine apart. And the modular construction makes working on it more simple.
I hope you enjoy this presentation. I hope you enjoy it very much. I hope you enjoy it very much. This presentation. I hope you enjoy it very much. I hope you enjoy it very much. This presentation of mine.
Running off of batteries, where we rant about piece of crap computers. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day. Bye. No editing.